Good morning. I'm Peter Hurst, the President and CEO of the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. Welcome to our 2021 edition of our Business Opportunity Conference. This is the second day of our three-day conference. Yesterday, we had two panels. The first was Commemorating Triumphs and Transforming Futures, which featured two different types of success stories, corporate to MBE and MBE to MBE. Our second panel was Bridging a World of Opportunity, which featured two of our corporate members who operate in the business to consumer space. Today, we will start with a fireside chat between our own Donna, Latson, Gittens, and Andy Williams. Donna is the founder and CEO of More Advertising. Andy Williams is a former Marine who is a television personality and entrepreneur. He runs a very successful veteran-owned business that is also an MBE, Rehab Warriors. We will then have Create Connections, Accelerated Growth. This is a panel that will feature two success stories involving corporate members and MBEs. This panel will feature Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts and W3R, and it will also feature Eastern Bank and ACP Facility Services. So let's get started, as we need to get something done.
My name is Donna Latson Gittens, and I'm pleased to introduce you to Andy Williams. Andy is a U.S. Marine, a real estate developer, an award-winning social entrepreneur, and a host of HGTV's Flip or Flop Fort Worth, and the author of the book, Business is a Battleground. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in entrepreneurship and a master's in industrial organization psychology. In addition to his academic credentials, he's the founder of a vertically integrated real estate investment firm, executing full-scale community revitalization with a focus on social impact. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you for having me.
That's great to have you here. So let's talk about your military service and how that experience has led to the creation of Rehab Warriors and your RECON real estate venture. Tell us about Rehab Warriors.
Well, Rehab Warriors is a passion project that turned into a social enterprise. And really, it goes back to my background in the military, where I spent 4 years in the United States Marines. I loved the time that I served. I grew up in rural America. And, after high school, I wanted to travel and I wanted to experience a little bit of the world. And I'll tell you, the Marine Corps offered both, a lot of travel and a lot of experience. And I got lucky. I was in an anti-terrorism team, so I was part of the Special Forces units. And there I was able to really build a bond with my fellow veteran. And that bond lasts today. So Rehab Warriors is really a call to action, because when I came back from the war, after I left the Marine Corps, I transitioned, I would say successfully, but also unsuccessfully. And I ended up back in the industry of security and fighting terrorism, but on the private sector. And I spent 6 years on a project with Blackwater under the Department of State. And while I was overseas, I was able to have a little more economic mobility than my fellow active duty members, but it was something that I was very much exposed to from the veteran angle, where there's a lot of veterans on that project for several years that were in different stages of transition. And a lot of people don't understand that when veterans get out of the military, a lot of us are just kids that are a little older coming back home. And when I finally came back home and put my guns down in 2012, I was just overwhelmed with conviction to change the narrative of the veteran community, especially the concept that we are in need of help. And And I basically, I was lucky because when I was overseas, I was investing in real estate. And I believe that if I was going to invest, I'd want to make an impact. And if I wanted to make an impact, I wanted it to be local. And so from the early days, I've always wanted to kind of have a local impact. And when I came back home to Fort Worth in 2012, I seen a lot of my fellow veterans that were struggling. Mm-hmm. And the impact I could make at that time is I could, create small businesses. The first one was a cleaning company, and that cleaning company was cleaning out foreclosures. And I was able to, at that time, I was in a financial position to buy some properties, rehab some properties. But most of what I was trying to do was create a business model by which the fellow veteran could be a part of a community by which they could have collective economic mobility and also build that bond doing the service. And it's something about real estate that always had me gravitate to the community. Fast forward.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, when you brought those veterans in, did you bring them into your cleaning company first? And then you transform that into the Rehab Warriors program?
Yeah, exactly. It was, I've always taken the veteran transition. A lot of, I guess what I want to state is that, Rehab Warriors is just an evolution of a social project that I wanted to create change. I got my master's in industrial organizational psychology, and what I've identified, and actually had a conversation with some key stakeholders that do a lot of research in the veteran space. Marines specifically are the fastest growing demographic of small businesses in the veteran space right now, because a lot of us want to just come back and create businesses and be a part of something small. And so I've always kind of gravitated to following them and then creating opportunity for them. So initially it was cleaning foreclosures. That didn't work out. Right. And the reason it didn't work out is because even though I had a viable business model, I couldn't capture the contract. So I learned at a very young age, especially working in the private sector, that, to have a sustainable business, you have to have a contract, and the contract will just give you viability. Without a contract, you don't really have a business. Right. So when I was at a very infantile stage of my business, that even though I was solving a problem and I was creating revenue, I was not going to be able to get a large enough contract to grow. I pivoted that business and I went after a larger client and I created larger accounts. And we had some success. I grew that business to about $5 million. It was Marine Clean. And what I was doing there, I was taking military veterans and I was putting them in leadership roles. And it's something about the fact that we are leaders. Right, the military is an asset, and for all the small businesses that are listening, I want you to think about, if you want a competitive advantage right now in the market, if you want to be able to build, scale, and/or adjust to the disruption, the veteran as a leader is really the identification of the pipeline you want to bring into your business. Because what the military has done is they've spent millions of dollars on training us, and then they send us back into the civilian sector, wandering around looking for opportunity. But most of the time we're at lower level management positions or entry level positions, and nobody's really leveraged our leadership. And I want to pose a question for the audience. Mm-hmm. If you take an 18-year-old kid and send him to a environment by which he is recruited, trained, and then deployed, and within 2 years, he's managing nuclear defuel missions off nuclear subs. He's going into foreign countries with the allocation of multi-million-dollar budgets, and he's operating some very tactically, highly classified missions. And by the time he's, 28, he's training his peers to do the same. Right. Why would we American businessmen put as an entry-level position? So for me, it was a fundamental capital approach. I believe the veteran was an asset. So I took the veterans and instead of putting them in infantile rows or pipeline rows where they were cleaning projects, they were leading cleaning companies. And I was getting them cross-trained in project management, and the clients were the largest post-construction or largest general contracting companies in Texas. And what we were doing is we were doing post-construction cleaning. And I grew that company within the first year to $1 million in revenue. But that's not what's exciting. What's exciting is I reintegrated successfully 10 veterans in leadership roles making 6 figures on a job with a certification from project management. So that was the cleaning. Go ahead.
Let me ask you. Yeah, you make it sound like, it was very linear, that it just took off. But, you had your education, you had the education of being in the military. What about the mentors or trusted advisors who helped you along the way? Did you have someone that you turned to that helped you figure this out, or did you come to this on your own?
Yeah, actually, it was funny. In 2005, so Marine Corps is very tight-knit community, extremely tight-knit. And in 2005, when I was in Iraq, and let's go back to Iraq, when I went from an active duty, Marine, to coming out, my reintegration was I got a job as a private investigator, and I was making very little pay, and I was extremely frustrated. And I experienced the social economic challenge that veterans experience today. The difference is I had a background that was leverageable in the current market conditions. So I ended up back overseas in Iraq, and my salary was just shy of $200,000, and I was making decent money. And I remember, like, the first time I was in Iraq, came back from a mission, our camp got hit with rockets. I didn't think I need to leave. I didn't think, what am I going to do? I was like, I need to start a business so I can get out of here.
Right.
First time I was back, working on getting back home. But I also was confused at the idea that my skill set could earn that kind of salary. So I always wanted to have a decent wage. And so I Googled every Marine online, because there was no LinkedIn, there was no transition program. This is 2005. And I literally was Googling Marines and executive roles, and I put them on a spreadsheet. I got their numbers, and I cold called them from Iraq. And I was calling the presidents, I was calling the CEOs, and I was like, hey, I'm a Marine, I want to learn to start a business, and I see you in an executive role. Can you give me 15 minutes of your time? And overwhelmingly, everyone replied. One specifically invited me out to Silsbee, Texas, and we're still friends today. Russ McDonough, he and his team were running a private equity group, and they would buy businesses, restructure them, and sell them. And this is just God and blessed. And I'm glad you asked that question, because it wasn't without the exposure. Where Russ McDonough, he invited me out to Silsbee, Texas, and he said, listen, young Marine, I'm extremely busy, but I want to get back. And so what I'm going to do is every Thursday at 7 o'clock my time, I'm going to block out an hour, and we're going to go over your business, and I'm going to let you learn about business. And 7 o'clock in stateside time was 5 o'clock in the morning in Iraq. So every morning at 0500, on Thursday, I was calling him. But what I got to be able to get exposed to is they bought Texas Home Health for $30 million. And over the time I was in Iraq, they grew it to $300 million and sold it. Wow. So I was on weekly calls listening to the COO explain how they were able to do that. And so part of everything I do, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so obsessed and very focused on serving the veterans, because it was God that gave me that ability to get exposed to Mr. McDonough. But I promised him, because he wouldn't take any money, but he said just help a few. So every time I empower another veteran, that's my give back to him, because that time is invaluable. Right. So yes, there was 100% exposure, which is one of the reasons why I always took an unconventional route at business. I don't think business is about books. I don't think it's about balance sheets. I don't think it's about people. I think it's about exposure, because the more you learn, the more you are exposed to. I mean, here I am, a young Marine who came back from the war. I was rehabbing houses. I was flipping houses, and I'm sitting with lot control, land entitlements on a $30 million development that I'm on the development team with 4 people, but I've only been back from the war for 5 years.
And the reason I asked that question too is because that's exactly what the Greater New England Minority Supply Development Council does. They are about not a handout, not charity. It's giving people an opportunity, giving business people with a business plan to be able to have the opportunity to do the work. And I think what you're doing is exactly to that point. I did want to bring in one interesting aspect of your life, Andy, and that's your wife, Ashley. You and Ashley have built a successful life, which brought you to the Flip or Flop TV franchise and your own TV show called Flip or Flop Fort Worth. How did that come about? But before you tell us that, tell us about how you met your wife.
Yeah. So Ashley was this beautiful young soldier in Iraq. And when I was in Iraq, we met in Baghdad. And I remember the first tour I was on, I ran into her when I was working out at the gym, and she was on her first tour. And she was with the 29th Cash, which is the combat support hospital. And I remember I'm a young Texas guy, and I was taught to, always court women. So the way that I would court her is I would bring her food from the chow hall. She loved to eat. And so I would get her chow hall food from our camp because our food was a little better. And so I would bring it to her and we would chat. We'd sit outside and we'd talk. And we did that for 6 months. And it was funny because we'd have conversations. I'd be, working during the day and I'd get off at night, and I would come and spend like 3 hours just talking to her because we're in the middle of war. And she ended up like leaving one day, and she got sent back home. Her tour was over, and I remember calling her, and she literally never called me back. Literally never called me back. She's like, "Hello, who's this?" I was like, "This is Andy from Iraq." She's like, "Okay, hey, how's it going? Let me call you back." And she never called me back. And I guess it was in God's hands. She got sent back to the same place.
Oh, wow.
And then she on her second tour. And I was like, "Listen, I'm not feeding you unless you date me. And then you got to remember my number." And that's when we started dating. So we had this interesting relationship where we met at war. And for the first 3 years, we never seen each other outside of a combat environment. And what happened was, and this is one of the other reasons why I'm so passionate about veteran transition, is when that second tour was in like 2007, and she was active duty working for the combat support hospital. She had gotten an alternative, either re-enlist after she was stop-lossed, and stop-lossed means that she can't get out because there was so much happening in the military, and there was so much of a transition and so many casualties being taken that nobody could get out. And so she was stuck in even when she was supposed to rotate back out, and that was like 3 to 4 months. And then when they lifted the stop-loss, they gave her 30 days in Iraq to make a decision whether re-enlist or get out, and she went into panic mode. And she came to me and said, "Hey, I don't know what to do. What can I do?" And I said, "Well, let me do this." And I literally got someone and hired a consultant to talk to her. We pulled out a professional resume. We looked at all the colleges, and then I told her, "Here's her career path." And nothing fit. And there was literally me sending someone that I really cared about back to America with no real alternative. So what I did, like any other friend, I said, listen, you're highly qualified. You've ran the hospital for several years. You have the experience. I believe that you can do this. There's a logistics part of our project. So I took a resume. I literally walked it into the head of the project, and I said, listen, there's a transition veteran. I think it'd be a good fit. Would you look at a resume? She get an email from Blackwater within 2 days. She has to go verify, shoot. She comes back, getting out of the military, making 120 grand a year, leveraging her skills. And by the time she left the project, she was managing $1 billion in purchasing.
Wow.
4 projects. And that was it. I believed in her.
Well, and somehow your believing in her turned into the two of you getting married. And then you end up in Houston doing that TV show. How did that come about?
Yeah, we actually ended up in Fort Worth. We ended up in Fort Worth. And what happened is the whole time I was in Iraq, I was buying investment properties. And here she is, we're different. She's the organization, I'm the operations. And I had like 45 rental properties. I had no systems in place, and I didn't even know how to work a spreadsheet. So she came in and she organized everything, and we built our first small business from scratch. And when we came back home, you know, the rule coming back home for us was we would save, we would invest, but when I came home, guns down. She did not want me raising a family going back and forth overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So we put a timeline in place, we put a plan in place, we executed it. And when we came home, I was working on the social venture where I'm training veterans, but at the same time, we had a successful real estate operation that was mostly income properties. Then we would rehab and flip. She would tinker with the design, and we were decent at it. And what happened is she was turning 30, and I believe I was just like, you know, we ran hard for a lot. We were very disciplined. I said, let's go anywhere in the world you want to go. And we settled on Tahiti, and I was in Tahiti. I'm a massive scuba diver. I love shark diving. I love ocean. My mom's an immigrant from Barbados, so I'm like, I gravitate to the culture of the Caribbean, and I'm home. And but I'm very chatty, and I was just talking vacation talk to another couple, and you know, me and the gentleman, you know, we connected and we kept in touch, and we were just talking about my passion with veterans. We were talking about his passion, which was, you know, going out and really just kind of understanding people. I did not know that he was an executive with Discovery and the networks. And he ended up calling me after and said, hey, you know, I think we could do something together to help your story and help veterans. I'm like, okay, one thing led to another. We shoot a sizzle, we shoot a pilot, we shoot a series, and we have a show. And it was successful, it was wildly successful. But the only reason why we did the show, and there's a Forbes article that went out right before the show, because my wife's very introverted. I'm very, you know, focused on missions.
Right.
I just wanted to get out. I wanted veterans to know that entrepreneurs like me existed and that they could do it. And after we did that, we came off the air. We turned down season 2, and I went 100% into solving the problem because I was overwhelmed with DMs from my Instagram, messages from my website, veterans saying, mentor me. And so I went into the lab to create Rehab Warriors.
Let me ask you, how challenging was it to engage veterans coming back to civilian life or those who may be affected with PTSD? How does Rehab Warriors help veterans? And it's not charity. You know, I know we've chatted about that. This is not charity for veterans. I mean, veterans have amazing skill sets. So it is really putting those skill sets to work. How challenging is it to bring them back to civilian life?
Yeah, so, I'll explain it this way. I wouldn't be here without my fellow veterans, so it's not challenging. It's an obligation. It's like when you're in a firefight or you're downrange, if you see your buddy bleeding, it's self-aid, buddy aid, troop aid. Self-aid, take care of yourself, stop your bleeding. Buddy aid, the guy to your right or left, stop his bleeding. And then troop aid or unit aid. Mm-hmm. And so God put me in a position where I was able to maintain my economic mobility when I got home. And I've helped one or two, but it's like after the show, I felt like there was an obligation to build a unit and really build a community where we can actually effectively create change at the masses. But I want to point this out. I'm not helping the veterans. Like, I'm leveraging the veterans. I'm a capitalist. I'm making a very extremely dedicated approach to solving one problem. The problem I'm solving isn't veteran transition. That is the market opportunity, because there's 250,000 veterans getting out each year that have over $1 million in training, that are educated, that are passionate about service, that are committed to companies and organizations, and they just want to be local heroes, local participants in society, and they just need a platform to get mobility. The problem I'm solving is the affordable housing problem, because nationwide there's a crisis. Right. And today, for example, yesterday I drove all the way to Gainesville, Texas, because I was looking at 40 acres that is platted for redevelopment. And after visiting the community, not only do they need a development of those 45 acres, the infield areas need redevelopment. They need apartments, but they have a very buzzing downtown. Yeah. And it's amazing. They actually host the Medal of Honors every year. Huh. But when I was there, I was able to call a buddy of mine who's a fellow Marine from Blackwater and said, "Hey, buddy, tell me about the market." I didn't have to go talk to an agent. I didn't have to go talk to a local person. He gave me the connections, and I was there. So we're in every community, and we are poised and positioned to solve this problem. So Rehab Warriors is just leveraging the presence of military veterans nationwide, and we're giving them a new skill. And we're basically increasing America's housing supply, because that's the national problem. Yeah. And then the opportunity is the 250,000 veterans coming in each year that are able to transition with purpose. The impact,
I want to pick up on that. Because it's not unlike GNEMSDC, which is across the country. And their goal is to advance business opportunities for Asian, Black, Hispanic, Native American business enterprises, and to connect them to corporate members. So one of the vital services of GNEMSDC is certification. What kinds of certifications do you have, and have those been helpful as you've grown your business?
Yeah, so me as an individual business, let's separate. So we have Rehab Warriors, which is a venture under RECON. But RECON is certified as a MBE, which is a minority business enterprise, an SDVLB, service-connected disabled veteran-owned business, a hub, historically underutilized business. And those certifications are critical, not just to my present activity, but also to my future growth. Because when you look at the veterans, and actually, I went and got all my certifications from an affiliated entity of your organization, the affiliated endowment, and it was important. But here's the thing, and I think we spoke about this earlier. It doesn't matter if I'm not positioned to use it. And so one of the things I want to be able to reach out to some of the businesses on the call, whether you're doing 100 million or you're just getting started trying to break your first million. Positioning is important, and getting those certifications is critical. It's worth it. My wife thought, why are you going through all these certifications? Well, when you look at the federal government, the only way, and this is the future opportunity I see, that we're going to come out of this current situation we have in America, is we're going to have to rebuild. And those rebuild efforts are going to come from the federal government, and it's implemented through certification. If you're not, there's a lot of minority businesses that are minority, but they're not certified, so they're not going to benefit, nor are they allocated any of the resources or capital or contracts. And what I love about the programmatic as well is that it allows for you to team, because all these projects are going to be teamed. They're going to be project related, program related. And so, for example, I didn't get into development because I decided I wanted to go create a $300 million project in Balch Springs. No, I was able to partner with the number 4 builder, with the number 1 multifamily developer, with urban or with housing, urban and development, solve their problem, and also do the work that the city needed. I needed to work with the city, but that project, there are going to be a massive allocation to MBE. Right. On the home building side, construction side, because one of my biggest things as an MBE and as a tactician and as a social entrepreneur, controlling value supply chain. Right. I want to control value supply chain. I want to be able to control, one, not the contracts, but I've somehow, by the grace of God, maneuvered myself to be able to issue the contracts, to do, because we are a certified public benefit corporation. So while I'm sitting here capacity building for veterans, Rehab Warriors teaches veterans to be rehabbers, home builders, and developers. Today, we're starting in America's distressed communities. But when I'm done, we are going to be developing America, their housing stock, their roads, their byways. We are going to be implemented in building these small businesses, because when World War II, when the veterans came back from World War II, which another one of my mentors was a veteran, the actual veteran that got me into real estate, committed to communities that needed to be rebuilt, was L.V. Arnett. And he was 86 years old when I met him. And I remember I was on leave off of a project, and he was pulling a rug out of a duplex. And here's this frail old man, and I'm like, sir, do you need any help? He's like, no, I'm fine. It's like, are you interested in selling this building? He's like, let me think about it. And get back home, and then I had to go back overseas to Iraq, and I left him my dad's number, because my dad grew up as a concrete foreman in this area. And I left him my dad's number. My dad corresponded with the two of us, and I ended up buying the building for $32,000. But it was funny, like he didn't want me to pay cash. He didn't want me to go to the bank. He wanted to hold the note. And what he wanted me to do was pay, 6%, which was an annuity, because what he had used was real estate as an augmentation to his retirement. Sure. And as he got other, he ended up selling me, probably 32 properties. And it wasn't until like the last 2 years where he opened up, and he was a Marine from Iwo Jima, World War II. Wow. Battle of Iwo Jima.
Yeah, and I did want to follow up on what you said regarding certifications, and you also have a partnership with the Department of Labor. You've developed a training curriculum. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so after I did the show, obviously you have a lot of verticals you can go through, but none of them made sense, and it actually did not make any sense to me that rehabbing a home was done by a bunch of people that either knew the industry, and the people that had some success, they would go and create seminars and take advantage. And a lot of my friends were spending $50 to $60 to hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to learn this. And I was like, no, there has to be a better way. So I did some research, and I talked to all the national associations of home builders, the National Association of Remodelers, the National Association of Construction and Research, and I was really frustrated to find out that not only did they not teach the actual business, veterans specifically were allocated as a pipeline for trades. And in my mind, it did not make any sense. I know I wouldn't want to come back and be limited to just framing a house or being a plumber or electrician. And I said, so what about if we want to buy the properties and we want to do it? No, we don't teach that. We only support builders. So I went to NARI. Oh no, actually they got upset at me. They was like, no, that's a pipeline. We don't teach that. We only certify.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, so I'm a Marine. I'm like, I'm on a mission now. So I'm going to talk to the National Center for Education, Construction, and Research. And I know I'm going to get a better answer because I researched them, and they are the accrediting body for all trade schools. I think I know they have to have a program to teach this. Right. And I got a meeting with the board, and what I found out was very interesting. They're great people, by the way. They said, we don't like the home builders a lot. They rape our pipeline. They don't actually build pipelines. We are actually in the commercial space. We're more in the industrial space. And that's who backs us. And we create pipelines. They exploit the pipeline when the market's hot. And if you look around right now, look how many programs are being leveraged for training, but when the market crashes, they all die in the home building space. Right. So we became allies. So I'm in partnership with the National Center for Education, Construction, and Research. But I said, I don't want to teach veterans just to be trades. I want to create a unified program that allows them to be home builders and developers. And they said, listen, we can't help you. We're really busy, but we're support your mission. And we think you're on your way. So I said, well, who accreditates you? They're like, oh, we're accredited by the Department of Labor. So what does a Marine do? I go call the Department of Labor. Yeah. And I have a conversation with the Department of Labor, and I said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but nobody's teaching home building and rehabbing, and there's an affordable housing crisis. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. So I worked with the Department of Labor, and I created America's first and only trade school that teaches rehabbing, home building, and development, and the veterans start out at the top.
Awesome.
And that's what we're doing.
So let's pivot a little bit because, I'm sure every single business person that's on this call has suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic. And it threw a lot of businesses into chaos, forcing some to rejigger themselves or just outright shut down. The federal Paycheck Protection Program has been critical to keeping companies solvent, but many minority and women-owned businesses were unable to take advantage of the loan support. What advice would you offer minority-owned companies so that they're better prepared if something of this catastrophic nature happens again? And how should they be prepared?
So, and I'm speaking specifically to those businesses that are frustrated or listening to this call. They're somewhat inspired, but they're a little bit confused on, okay, well, how do I get there? And I want you to step back, and I want you to really think about what you're great at. What do you do? Because one of the challenges is when we get certified and we go through the process, we want to do everything that we can get our hands on. But what can we actually do? Find out what you're great at. Find out what your company's capability is. Because one of the things that I tell people is that I didn't build a wall overnight. Every day I just stacked a brick. So when I came back in 2012, my first brick was I wanted to build a cleaning company. And today, the same companies that I was getting contracts to clean are bidding on projects that I developed. And that's because I kept stacking bricks. I'm good at veteran transition. I see markets, I see gaps, and I fill them. But I partner all the time. I'm good at creating teams. I'm a team builder. And then I step out of the way. I'm going to build 100 houses this year, but let me tell you something. I have some of the best builders on my team. I'm going to do land development, but when I get ready to develop that $40 million multifamily project that's a tax credit deal, I'm bringing the best multifamily developer to the table because I'm a team.
Because you're a team builder. But were you a beneficiary of the PPP loans?
No, I personally did not take any PPE loans. I didn't take any EIDL loans. And the reason is I like free mobility, but also I grew. Like right now, I think there's a buying opportunity for businesses. So I'm putting together teams to go buy businesses because a lot of viable businesses that are not MBE certified, that are not SDVOB certified, are going to market because they want to take advantage of the current situation, and they're a little bit fearful of the tax implications of next year. So what we're doing is we're looking to do acquisitions. Mm-hmm. And go ahead. You have another question?
No, well, I do. I have several. I think, what advice then would you offer to veterans or anyone else who wants to become their own boss? I mean, you sound like you have extraordinary skill set. Everybody's not like you, Andy. Everybody doesn't have that drive, that vision to make something come alive. So what would you say to them to get started?
So the best thing I give people, and again, going back to my earlier comment, is find out what you're good at and do it. Mm-hmm. Go get one contract. Don't try to get $1 million contract. Try to get a $100,000 contract, and then build relationships, because everything I do is relationships. Mm-hmm. Now, I might not have or tap a relationship in 2020 that I established in 2014. Matter of fact, I'm tapping relationships that I established in 2012 to go put together capital to buy businesses today after 6 years.
Right.
And so do not get confused that you have to start and run. Crawl, but crawl with passion, purpose, integrity, and ethics, and do business the right way. And when you start walking, walk with passion, integrity, and fiduciary duty, and responsibility, and belief, and self-confidence. And when you're running, always remember that you can fall, and you will trip, and you will skid, and you will hurt. But let me tell you something, you are running to fall, and when you get up, I fell so many times, but I leveled up every time I fell. Right. Because you never fall and grow, you always fall to grow. Mm-hmm. You fall to grow because sometimes there's a perspective you need to see. For example, I bought a whole neighborhood. I put a bunch of money in one community after the show because I wanted to stabilize the housing market, because I was going against this developer who was buying up a bunch of properties, and they were tearing them down and building $500,000 houses. So I'm going to stop that. So I went and put a lot of capital out. And when I did that, I pinched myself. And in addition to pinching myself, he ended up flooding the market with lots. And I had no financial model that would show value on the properties I bought because everything was new construction. Right. And then I said, I stepped back, and I literally, going back to mentors, always pick up a mentor at every level. And every time you level up, mentor. I'm going to say that again. Every level you grow, pick up a mentor. Every time you level up, become a mentor, because that's how you grow. And I went and called General Williams, and I said, hey, I don't know what I did wrong, but I messed up. And he said, you didn't mess up. You just were playing the game wrong. That you're playing development, but you're not a developer. So General Williams said, I'm going to put you in touch with some developers, and I'm going to assign you to them, and you're going to hang out with them for a year. And that's how I got in development. Right. But that mistake, my wife was like, how did you make that mistake? I was like, you don't know. So I believe your organization, they teach us what we don't know. So the other advice I'll give to new people is close your mouth and listen. Listen and then apply. And then after you apply what you've learned, come and ask questions. Because so many people, the thing that separates most entrepreneurs, most small business owners, is they don't do the work. Right. They literally sit there certified, capable, with capability statements, but won't even apply for a contract. They won't go sit against the RP. The 173 acre I redeveloped in Dallas, Texas, an RP came out from HUD, public information. 2 people applied. We just showed up.
Right. And you were ready.
Yeah, well, it's necessarily me being ready. I was on a team that was ready, and I was ready team. And that's why I tell you, you don't have to be big. You don't need to be small, but you need to add value. So I was able to add value. So the other part of advice I'll give to the listeners, whether you're big or small, and if you're in the room or you're on this call, there is a diversity of businesses here. Corporations that want to work with you, that need to work with you. It is about us rebuilding together. I believe also it is your responsibility to grow. I took this project mainly because I wanted to give you guys this message.
Right.
It is on us as small businesses to grow to medium-sized businesses, to become bigger businesses right now, because we as American businesses have to rebuild the American economy.
Right.
Every state, every city is going to need to grow. And everyone, more now than ever,
right,
is looking for capability in teams that can be formed around a solution.
right.
Create jobs, and I promise you that you'll figure it out along the way. And lastly, no one, not even me, has it all figured out. We're all figuring it out along the way, but as a team, we all, when we get to the solution, we go to the next step.
Right. Well, you have been fantastic, Andy. Thank you so much. I look forward to following your career and the continued growth of not only RECON, your real estate business, but Rehab Warriors. Thank you so very much.
It's a pleasure to be here, and to everyone on the call, good luck. And I'll be following your journey as well. And, you know, let's rebuild America, because it's our time to really, really create the impact that we want to see. Thank you.
You're happy and you know it, put your hands.
If you're happy and you know it, wear a mask.
If you're happy and you know it,
track your health.
Strike a pose. Say I.
And you really want to show it.
if you're happy and you know it, try your hands.
At Eversource, every single one of us brings something special to work every day.
We're here to provide a service to others.
Nearly 8,000 of us.
Serving in the neighborhoods where we work and live.
Providing energy-saving solutions.
Working together for a better tomorrow.
And empowering New England
by delivering reliable energy
for every moment of our lives.
I'm Violet, and I am Eversource.
I am Eversource.
मेरा नाम सबाना है और मैं एवरसोर्स हूँ।
We are Eversource!
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and I also serve currently as co-chair of the MBEIC, which is the Minority Business Enterprise Input Committee for the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council, or the GNEMSDC. And today we have a very exciting panel of professionals, corporate and MBEs, and we're calling it Create Connection and Accelerate Growth. So we're limited on time. We're going to try to keep this to 40 minutes. So I am going to ask representatives that are here with us today from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, W3R Consulting, Eastern Bank, and ACP Facility Services to introduce themselves. Give us your company, obviously your name, your company, and your title, and then we're going to jump right into questions. And I'm going to start with Ms. Joanne Schlick from Eastern Bank.
Hi, I'm Joanne Schlick from Eastern Bank. My title is the Vice President of Procurement and General Services Manager.
Thank you. Carolyn.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Ball from W3R Consulting. I'm the VP of Strategy and Client Solutions.
Thank you. Lee.
Good morning. My name is Lee Green. I'm with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, and I am the Chief Architect.
Excellent. Thank you. Eric.
Good afternoon. Eric Hardy, President CEO of W3R Consulting. Thanks for having this 26-year-old technology enterprise. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. Excellent. And Michael.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael White. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for ACP Facility Services.
All right. Thank you. Thanks everyone for making time for this most important panel. As you guys know, our members of GNEMSDC include corporates and MBEs. And so we're very excited to kind of really highlight these amazing success stories, positive news, and Lord knows we need more of it. And so we're very, very excited. So we're going to jump right in to our questions. So our first question is going to be aimed at our MBEs. How was the relationship with corporate started, and how long did it take to develop? And let's start with W3R Consulting's Ms. Carolyn Ball.
Thank you, Ramon. Yeah, so we started our relationship with, to begin our relationship with Blue Cross of Massachusetts back in 2017. So it did take some time to evolve. It was about a year from start to finish, meaning the beginning of our relationship officially with an executed MSA. It takes some time to identify targets and individuals that we wanted to meet within the Blue Cross organization. We utilize our network as everybody else does to try to identify who's connected to who. And as everybody knows, network is most important to anything when it comes to sales and relationships and building your business. We made our way to the man of all men that we were told if you wanna meet somebody, he was the man that every man should meet. So that was Lee Green, and he's been our sponsor since then.
Wow, that was awesome. Lee, we've got to have a one-on-one after that.
I need to have a one-on-one with myself. Let's talk about it.
You have a lot to live up to now.
I do. My goodness, no pressure.
Thank you. Michael White from ACP. Same question.
Our journey began roughly six years ago. I had the pleasure of meeting Joanne on a pre-bid walkthrough, and we've been able to cultivate and build upon our relationship in that time. And it took some time of communication and working together through the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. And we were very fortunate through the last round of RFPs to be awarded for Eastern Bank back in November. So it was a longer journey, but it's been very beneficial so far, I think, for both sides.
Excellent. I think both of you said that it takes time, right? That's something that I heard, and that's an important takeaway. Our next question: how did you develop the relationship with corporate supplier diversity? And we'll go to W3R's Eric Hardy.
Yeah, thank you, Ramon, for the question. For W3R, I mean, we always try and be supportive of corporate supply diversity as well as the council from a particular region. In the case of Blue Cross Massachusetts, we actually developed our relationships with the business owners first. So Lee Green and then the CIO and other team members over there. So we actually were an existing supplier, and we came back around to supplier diversity and offered ourselves to them in a very constructive way to ask how can we be supportive of the programming that they had existing at Blue Cross Massachusetts. And then it actually led us into how can we be supportive of Blue Cross Massachusetts into the Greater New England Council. And that's really how we started to develop the relationship with the council. You know, W3I has been very, I think, fortunate to have strong supplier diversity relationships with a number of clients. And so we've participated in activities like this, maybe panel discussions, maybe it's mentorship programs, sometimes even award programs. And so we offered ourselves either from a best practice perspective, kind of a partner perspective with others that may be doing business with Massachusetts. But we really just wanted to find out what, what the program was like and what Delana was doing there, and then just how we could offer ourselves. And so she was very receptive. We started having quarterly meetings. And, for the MBEs that'll be listening to this, we really see supplier diversity in this context as being kind of an advocate for us. Not always when you have a problem. I think sometimes the word advocate is used for problem solving, but it's also for creativity, for thought leadership. And so supplier diversity was definitely one of the entities or groups inside Blue Cross Mass that was, at least helping us to, chart kind of new opportunities there and new relationships. So that's kind of how we met supplier diversity.
And did you feel like you were reaching out to them more than they were reaching back, or was it kind of mutual?
I think in the beginning we sought them out, but once they realized, and so for the folks tuning in, W3R is not from Boston or the Greater New England area. We're actually headquartered out of Michigan, and so we are not as well known an entity in the region. And so we had to kind of seek out some of the relationships, kind of build a little bit of that. And then we developed a cadence though. So we would have quarterly sessions, and every time we're actually in town, we still do this once we can come back in town. Every time we're in town, we have a little bit of a face-to-face. There's something just to catch up. A lot of times I think the supplier diversity relationships are best built from a personal perspective. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of that kind of relationship build there as well. So it's a very mutual thing at this point.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. That's a great takeaway, that it takes time and it's relationship building and getting to know each other on a personal level. The same question for Michael White from ACP.
I don't know how I follow up Eric's response. I mean, it was so well put together, and just going back to, one of the previous things you said after my first one about the long journey, and I think one of the things that it is a long journey sometimes, but it's about being persistent, right? It's about continuing to follow up. And I talk to other MBEs and other companies, and I think sometimes we all get frustrated with the process, but if you stay persistent, if you stay engaged in that relationship, and I say it in kind of jest, but pestering sometimes, and it's not so much as a pestering as it is just trying to stay on the radar. And I think it's very, very important to continue to try to develop that relationship. And Eric said it best, about having that face-to-face relationship. And a lot of our business has changed, and especially with the pandemic, and we're all talking via Zoom today. And I think it's important to find some of those roots back to those meetings again at some point, because I do think it's very, very valuable to building a great relationship and being able to show people what you're able to do. I think it's hard sometimes via email. I think it's hard talking over the phone. So that face-to-face relationship, I think, has a huge impact in being able to develop a relationship on both sides.
Absolutely. And that's another great takeaway for our MBEs, is just being persistent, not giving up. It takes time building the relationship. How many times per week do you think was it once a week you check in, or once a month, or did you have something recurring where you guys had a weekly check-in?
You know, I don't think it was so much a weekly basis. You know, again, we've been in the business for a while, so we understand how the process works. I think it was, I would say more so quarterly. When we were at events, it was seeking, Joanne out, and I'm sure she goes, oh, here comes Michael again, or here comes Jerry again.
Yeah, sure.
But certainly, reaching out and just having that face to face, or maybe it was having lunch and sitting down and just catching up. And a lot of times it wasn't even about business, right? It was just having a normal conversation. And I think that's very important. I think sometimes I know on the MBE side, MBEs get frustrated sometimes that, they're part of a networking group, so to speak, and they're not getting business, right? But it's, the council's here to help open up doors, right? It's your job and your responsibility to kind of walk through those doors and take it from there, right? Everybody can ring the doorbell, but from that point forward, you can't be spoken for. You need to speak for yourself. So I think that's a huge thing. And again, just making more human than it is robotic about my business, my business, my business.
Right. So. Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Question 3. And this one's for Lee Green and Carolyn Ball. You guys can, whoever wants to add it first, but I'd like to hear from both. Describe the work that you have delivered for corporate and that you continue to deliver.
That's fun, considering it was a lot of the work was for me, but I would love to hear Carolyn's version of this, because I'm a very technical person, just to spice it up a little bit. No, but I will put it out there. And some of the things Carolyn said were a bit in jest, but that connection with finding the right person who had the need, which within our organization, Blue Cross Blue Shield, can be somewhat daunting, because there's a lot of different work going on. But I mean, part of that was actually finding the right fit for the capabilities brought. The work that W3R did for me and for our organization as a whole was a lot of work around IT strategy. We're talking about cloud, we're talking about where we're going with big data, a lot of work around architecture, which obviously I'm the chief architect, so very near and dear to my heart, helping me to establish with my peers our information management and integration architecture strategy, as well as a lot of work in evolving our data capabilities and analytics and data science. So a lot of specialized work that is very, it was the right fit for us at the right time.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Well stated. I almost, don't need to jump onto that, but just continue the dialogue with where we are. Moving forward, I think there's a common theme here, right, with tenacity and perseverance, making sure that we're continuing the dialogue, continuing the conversations with the clients. Obviously, part of that's just that relationship that Michael had spoken about, making sure that we are having the conversations with the right people at the right time, as Lee has just mentioned. Lee might have a lot of opportunity in the beginning for us to come in and be able to support him. And as that has evolved, we obviously need to find opportunity to continue to sell our book of business and then support the client in value-added ways throughout different areas of the organization. So we're continuing to do that on a regular basis, keeping things on our radar as much as possible, staying in front of the client when it's possible to have that face-to-face relationship. Obviously, COVID's changed a lot, but it's really allowed us to improve, I think, the video capability and the use of Zoom to kind of shorten that distance, even though we're a little bit farther apart. So we're continuing to look at providing value-added services for the organization, and I think that the main message there is aligning to all the services that Lee had mentioned, but doing it at the appropriate time.
Excellent, thank you. ACP and Eastern Bank, we haven't heard from Joanne, so I'm gonna let her go first here.
Geez, I wasn't planning on that. Let me see. What is that?
Little curveball there.
Yeah, because my initials aren't there. The sheet for the answers. ACP right now, what they do is they are a janitorial provider for quite a few of the Eastern Bank locations. We've been searching we've been dealing with ACP, or I've been talking with them for years. And it's like Mike said earlier, it was a relationship, not just for the business, but for personal. And, you know, just to keep that calm, and every quarter meeting we'd have, I'd either meet with Mike or Jerry, and I did not run away from you guys because I was fully, and I think I reassured them that my hands were tied because of the length of the contracts that were existing. And that's something that the vendors, the minority vendors that we try to bring in, there are times where we can't do it right now. Keep in touch, because, you know, we can get you in, but we have to wait for our contract to be up in order to do it. And that's how, that's what happened in November, or I should say it was earlier than that when they did it, and they did a great job. They had the capabilities, but I already knew that they had the capabilities that we were looking for to hire on for them to do our, you know, present. And, you know, there's a lot of different locations that they take care of, and they're doing a great job, you know.
Excellent. Michael, that was awesome endorsement there. Care to add any other details of services or length of contract or anything that you can be comfortable sharing?
Yeah, no, I think, for us, obviously understanding the process, and, as Joanne said, we've been given a great opportunity. It's now our job to take that from there and continue to show Eastern Bank what we're capable of doing. And, we use that opportunity as a referral to gain other business, as Carolyn said as well. I think that, you want to perform in a particular environment so that you're able to turn around and be able to sell that, but also maintain the current relationships that you have, but, growing upon that current relationship that you have as well.
Excellent. Question 4, this one, again, is for our corporates. We'll start with Lee Green from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts. Why wasn't MBE selected as a partner?
Well, I can say specifically in this case that for W3R as the MBE that we hired was the right fit for the right need at the right time. And I would say to that, kind of a preface to that was, as Carolyn mentioned and Eric as well, the getting connected to our diversity and to our supplier and diversity offices to be available for me as the business customer. Hard to say because I'm usually usually the business is my customer, but the IT business customer to be aware that the W3R was an option. And so for us, it was actually, having that relationship, a lot of the kind of the laying of the land, as it were, because if you're a new vendor partner for our organization, at least, sometimes the onboarding can be lengthy. And so having that you weren't strangers, or having them, that Eric and Carolyn were not strangers to our organization. And then it also helped specifically for W3R that the other peers of mine and other payers that they've worked with kind of helped to bring it home. I knew them by their work. I also knew them by their relationship within our organization in terms of diversity, being a diversity supplier. And to be perfectly candid, for me, having the depth of knowledge and resources that I needed to fulfill my commitment to my leadership. So for that was kind of, it was a perfect marriage at the time. And so again, to Carolyn's point, those marriages don't always happen very quickly. It's that persistence. So, and then being successful in delivering what was committed was also kind of keeps them at the top of mind.
Yeah, it's like a courting stage, but that's great.
It is, and I didn't, typically for some of the niche work that I was looking for, I would have probably gone out and hit a Google search for the big players in the world, and that probably would have not gotten the quality that I was looking for at the right fit for our industry in particular.
Okay, awesome. Eastern Bank, why was an MBE selected as a partner? Joanne.
Well, ACP participated in the RFP that we had out, and they came in with very aggressive low pricing. But in addition to that, we considered their capabilities of being a local vendor, and it was decided to award them several locations with that RFP. The decision also resulted with Eastern Bank contracting 100% of our janitorial services with minority vendors, which, you know, we do have some guiding principles that we go by, and business with the customers, minority vendors, and the support of the communities, and ACP fell into all of those criteria.
Okay, excellent. Question 5, was the work contracted limited to corporate, or were relationships extended beyond that work? And Eric Hardy, you've been quiet, so we're calling on you from W3R.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate tagging me back into the game. I wanted to jump in, but you know, these guys are doing such a wonderful job. I don't really have to add much. Let me start by saying, you know, sometimes you have a sponsor and then you have a real sponsor. And so what we're looking at today is Lee Green, as Carolyn started to introduce him, but he's really very special to us from an organizational perspective. He's actually a guy who's well known in his own right. And so allowing us to infiltrate his circle a little bit from a relationship perspective is incredibly helpful. And I mean that both personally and professionally. And as you can maybe kind of gauge by some of our interaction here, we've spent a lot of time together over the last several years.
I'm also learning flattery will get you everywhere. So.
Oh no, that means something big is coming up around. I haven't seen it yet, but
he knows it's coming or something.
I know Eric all too well. We have spent a lot of time together.
So I say that to say we came in and we kind of look at our relationships with our clients in a couple ways. One is we have to establish it. 2, we have to fall over backwards delivering for the customer.
Yes.
And then 3, we have to align with them from a corporate disposition. What is it that you guys are trying to do in-house professionally? What is it you're trying to do with the community? What is it that you're trying to accomplish from a brand perspective? And so for W3R, we really try to align to that. And Lee's a great person, in all seriousness, to help kind of champion that, sponsor us into a lot of that kind of relationship built. And for us, he made mention of this, but because there's the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association and family of Blues plans, our relationship really has continued to blossom with other Blue Cross Blue Shield organizations across the country. Lee has been an incredible reference for us. He's been a relationship sponsor for us. And then that extends also into some of their other technology partnerships that they have here locally, but groups that are national organizations, we're able to establish a rapport and relationship with them. So it's just been pretty phenomenal that way. I think additionally, knowing that Blue Cross Blue Shield is an active participant in the Greater New England Council, Jim Linehan is the chair of the board with Peter Hurst. So it's really an interesting combination of things for us to work with Blue Cross Massachusetts. And I couldn't think of a better partner or sponsor in that space than Lee. And it's very unusual as we talk about multiple accounts internally. We have our meetings and we bring up some of the relationships that we've been able to build over the last 5 years. The one that we have with Blue Cross Mass and Lee is right at the top of that list for a lot of reasons, but it's a highly productive relationship, to say the least. And
it's because my team is very loud when something is going wrong, and we're very, very noisy. Yeah, that goes to Eric's point. Is if you're doing good work, good work does speak for itself, and so again, the reputation precedes it.
Yeah, well, just thank you for being the guy that you are, and we appreciate all of that sponsorship that takes us to, takes us beyond just delivering the work into adding value. That's kind of where the word partnership and value comes from, and that's certainly how we mean it when we say we want to align, and being able to work with folks that understand on the other side goes a long way.
Excellent. Michael from ACP.
Again, I have to follow Eric up, and it's this has been I got to start thinking of new things, Ramon. So
this is like good cop, bad cop, right?
You want to go first next time?
Yeah. So I think everything that Eric said too, goes to how we look to continue to build upon our relationship. Our relationship started in November of last year, and Joanne had, she saw how in how much we were putting ourselves on her radar. Now that process will start with asking for references and things of that degree. But also the great thing about the relationship we have with Eastern Bank is they also have a third party that manages their facilities and JLL. and what has happened for us is that since we've been able to come on with Eastern Bank, JLL has also seen what our capabilities are and what we can handle, and how we manage that process. And they've extended us other opportunities, not only locally, but throughout the country. So, that growth network continues just past, not just with Eastern Bank, but now with JLL as a whole, who's a nationwide company, and our capabilities stretch beyond that. So certainly for us, it's extended well past corporate, but again, it's about building that relationship and that partnership, right? Eric said it best. I don't look at our clients as clients; I look at them as partners, because I think that not only for the work that we're doing for them, but what we can, what they can do for us as well. So certainly, it's been a good partnership so far, and hopefully that continues not only today but tomorrow and for many, many years.
Excellent. So we're into the home stretch. We got a very important question to kind of close us out. It has to do with community and social causes and impact, right? So how does this relationship translate to the community? And I'm going to open it up to Carolyn and Lee and Eric to kind of expand on that.
Thank you, Ramon. I'll start, Eric, or Lee, if you want to jump in. But as Eric had mentioned, we're not originally from the Boston area, so our headquarters is located in Detroit. We make purposeful expansion across the country as we grow our portfolio and business. So that said, we definitely are a community-focused organization, and regardless of what area we're in nationally, we like to be involved in the community, pull organizations close to us, pull ourselves closer to other organizations. For us, that means, of course, the GNEMSDC. It means the Boston Chamber of Commerce. We're working on getting involved there to see if there's ways that we can tie ourselves to the community closer. So, exploring membership options and attending events that they hold, of course, to develop those local relationships. But then in addition to that, from a community and jobs focus, we work with organizations that have boot camps to maybe skill up technical resources, individuals from local communities. They're trying really to help solve the gap in the marketplace for certain technical needs that exist in the marketplace. So those are a couple of the things that we do, and a couple of things that we're starting to really engage in locally in the Boston area.
Yeah, and I will jump in here because there's stuff here that was near and dear to my heart personally, as well as professionally. And that is with the community engagement, and knowing that the team here is mostly from Detroit, the willingness to embrace our community and the needs in that space. I'm very active with the Chamber of Commerce and the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce specifically, as well as do a lot of work with the Private Industry Council around education and in the Boston Public Schools. So hearing those kind of synergies and the willingness of my partners here to not only have to be coerced into doing something, but to recognize the value that brings. And more importantly, it's not just to us as a customer, but to the community which we work to serve. So that was a great compliment to kind of our philosophy and some of my own personal passion plays. So thank you both to Eric and Carolyn for being willing to do that and kind of helping us make a bigger splash than just our IT strategy. So thank you for that.
Yes. Eric, you want to chime in a bit on the job training or the boot camping?
I would just say that it's passion. My partners and I talk all the time that at this stage of our careers, it's about giving back and development of the next generation, right? I mean, STEM is obviously near and dear to our hearts because we're biased that way. So skilling and job training it's actually come a long way. We oftentimes think about how the university programming doesn't exactly, train folks to be job ready. You can take that, you can mirror it together with boot camping or some of these skilling programs. You can take folks that maybe have no formal training and put them through a couple of these programs tied together, still make them very productive, and then we can give them an entryway into the client world. So we do a lot of that kind of work. It's very passionate work for us. We do have our own scholarship programs, and we do a number of other things to just create engagement, to create awareness. And then, at the end of the day, we're trying to be good stewards too, right? I think everybody on this call is, with the same philosophy of it may not be for us directly, whatever it may be, but it's direct, it's indirect, but we're going to be stewards of the opportunity. And if we can help people, that's really what, drives us now, is how do we help others be better tomorrow, than they are today. And so anything that we can do in the community that supports that goal and initiative is something that my partners and I are all about. So thank you for that.
Yeah, amen. ACP and Eastern Bank, if you guys want to start, Michael?
Sure. I think, for us, it's translated in jobs for the community, around 55 employees currently. We know that number will grow as things slow down from the pandemic. So that's helped there. From a purchasing standpoint internally, we look to buy our supplies from other MBEs as well. So we've been able to turn around and buy from other minority businesses as well, along with continuing, working with the Greater New England Minority Supply Development Council with their programs and their initiatives as well. So,
excellent. Joanne, you want to add anything to that relationship, community impact?
As Mike said, that the employees, the 55 employees, were in the surrounding communities. Mike, ACP themselves is within the community, a business within our community. So, and in addition to that, initiating the initiatives for the Greater New England, the Pace Setters of Boston Chamber of Commerce, this all helps with those initiatives and the bank's initiatives as well. And you know what? As Eastern Bank grows, so will the opportunities for ACP for more locations and things. So there's more business opportunities within our communities, as well as they grow. So we'll be able to hire more people as well.
Excellent. One other thing, Ramon, that I would say too, that I didn't think of is that, Eastern Bank has been a very good advocate on the other side of things. We're starting to look at their business as well to help our business from an insurance side of things. They recently did a spotlight on one of our owners and their internal newsletter out to their community as well. So it's not just been, us showing up and providing janitorial service. It's been a full circle effort on both sides.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing, guys. I think we're at the end of our time for this panel. I wish to thank all of you, all the panelists, corporate and MBEs, for attending and being a part of it. This was wonderful, fun, informative, and it is sure to inspire our MBEs and our corporate members. So thank you once again. Let's stay safe, optimistic, and keep networking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the second day of our 3-day Business Opportunity Conference. We hope you were inspired by the fireside chat with Donna, Latson, Gittens, and Andy Williams. And whether you're a corporate member or an MBE, we hope that you learned about the importance of relationships from the Create Connections Accelerated Growth panel. We hope to see you tomorrow for day 3 of our conference, which features concurrent sessions of a corporate roundtable and an MBE roundtable. We will then close day 3 with virtual networking for our corporate members and our MBEs. See you tomorrow.